Hello and welcome back, everyone, to another episode here on the 2 Cents Podcast, where this week we need to talk about the stupid stock market. I mean, this has been history in the making this past week, and I kind of want to try and break it down and explain what's been going on to anyone who doesn't understand it, because I didn't understand it. I was very much like, oh, Reddit's doing something. Ooh, okay, I don't really care. This is basically how I was. And now that I know what's going on, I find it a lot more fascinating. And I also have some concerns. And I kind of want to go through some of those things because a lot of people I don't think are looking at the long-term effects from this. And it'll be kind of interesting to see if some of my thoughts come to fruition or if I'm just a paranoid son of a bitch. But yeah, welcome back, everyone. Thank you guys for the continued support here on the podcast. Absolutely love doing this thing every single week. And I find it interesting how I have stories and stuff for me to talk about eventually, but the constant news stories that we're getting here in 2021 are not letting up. Like, there's plenty to talk about in a week-to-week basis. Because I got stuff to talk about eventually, but I can't even cover those things right now because 2021 is off to another start like 2020. It's interesting. So it's an interesting time that we live in. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, having interesting things happen in life keeps the mind going. Because you're constantly thinking, why is this happening? This is interesting. This is out of the ordinary. Like, it can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing, just like the Capitol riots. There's so much history going on right now that I almost see myself as fortunate to be living through some of this. It's a positive way to look at what's been going on around the world and everything with COVID and everything. Like, we're going and living through a pandemic, and I know a lot of people don't view it as history in the making, but we're literally living in history. What's happening now is going to impact the future and how future diseases are covered and protected. Like, it's just a whole thing to me on my different way of mindset. And we need to get into this stock market thing because this is one of those history things that we're living through, and let's try and get some understanding of it. So essentially, here on Reddit, okay, if you don't know what Reddit is, it's basically a huge community where you can post whatever you want, and then people talk back and forth. They post pictures, they post a bunch of different stuff, a lot of it like uncensored, and it's kind of hard to find elsewhere. But the Reddit community is so expansive, and it has such a wide variety of people on it. It's fascinating how many different people are there. I mean, you got people from NASA that are on there. You got people who are Wall Street brokers on there. You got your typical everyday Americans. You have everyone from every walk of life joining into one central location. A lot of Q&As happen there with celebrities and whatnot. It's a very fascinating place to go to. It's not a place that I go to that frequently, because if I go in there, I know what'll happen. I will get addicted to it, and it'll be hard for me to get back out of it. So it's very much like Minecraft. When I get into Minecraft, it's hard for me to get back out of it. So I would rather avoid an addiction than going into it willingly, so to speak. So with this, there was a post done on Wall Street Bets, okay? That's the main page of this Reddit that's in question. And what they were talking about were hedge funds. And essentially, a hedge fund is basically ran by some of the richest people, and they kind of control a good bit of the stock market, okay? And they play the game, and they've been playing the game well without intrusion. It is until this one person put a post out there that got the internet riled up, which was basically that these are evil corporations and basically playing on weak businesses, basically taking advantage of a failing business to make a profit is what they were doing. So the internet being like, well, that's evil. Let's step in and start fixing that. They ended up doing something I wouldn't have thought possible. They took GameStop along with a couple of others and made GameStop into a Fortune 500 company for a while. I'm not sure if it's still there, but it was, at the very least. That was history. So, what is a hedge fund? Okay, we need to break this down. We need to get an understanding as to the roots of all this. A hedge fund operates in a very, very odd way that I'm not really sure why it exists. But what they're doing, okay, is say a company buys a bunch of stock, okay? And when they buy this huge bunch of stock, they kind of sell it back off. But they have to return that stock at a set purchase price, okay? So, say they buy stock at $10. Eventually, they have to give back that stock, but they're anticipating for that stock price to go down. So, when they give back that stock at, say, $7 price, they would be making a $3 profit. Okay? This is how they operate, but they do it on massive scales. So, when that price goes lower and they decide to cash out, they're taking a lot of money from the stock market. We're not talking like $3. We're talking millions of dollars. So, with them doing this, and everyone kind of catching on to this idea of, hey, that's stupid, someone had the idea of figuring out what these hedge fund operators were backing, okay? What all of their assets were in, and deciding to go ahead and buy the rest of the stock to increase that stock market value. With that, they ended up skyrocketing some of these prices. And what they're doing is essentially, there's a couple different words for it. One, they're trying to squeeze and hold the line. And another one is being called to the moon. Okay, they're trying to take everything to the moon. Basically what it is they're trying to hold out on this company and not lower the price. They want to hold everyone to hold the stocks and not sell right now, and hold the line. So that way, eventually, this company has to pay back so much money because they bought at such a low price and now it's worth so much. They owe hundreds of millions of dollars. One figure I saw was a $14.5 billion, not million, but $billion loss. $14.5 billion lost because of GameStop and what this internet was able to do. A lot of these companies are actually going bankrupt now. And to me, I say good riddance. You're playing a market game unfairly in a way that I'm not sure should exist. And you've been doing it for a good long while without any repercussions. And now you're being held accountable for your cheaty ways. I understand everything that Reddit has done. I understand that this was evil. And I understand that the name Robinhood being a thing for a stock market trading thing and then restricting what people can get for stocks is a little ass backwards, if you ask me. Robinhood was always a huge thing on, we're going to take from the rich and give to the poor. But in this case, that's not the case. Instead, Robinhood has secretly been milking money for a long time, and then when they realize that money is starting to be lost, they kind of restrict things a bit. So that's unfortunate for them. And they're definitely having class action lawsuits now because of the restrictions that they've been trying to impose. So we'll just kind of see what things come with that. I don't think the restrictions were really foreseen because I don't think people really thought that was possible for them to be like, nope, this is, you gone too far, kid. I don't think anyone really expected them to go and start limiting. But this whole thing has been so fascinating because you go from these people just going through their everyday lives to one simple post starting an internet revolution that has gone so far as to get multiple celebrities on board. Even Elon Musk has been in on this. Because apparently, once upon a time, hedge funds were actually trying to take on Elon Musk in the stock market. And I think that they were probably going after Tesla, which, if I've learned anything, it's do not dare try and cross Elon Musk. That man is a powerful, genius man. And I have a lot of respect for him. He definitely seems more of a down-to-earth type of guy. But that's just on social media. He could be a totally different man. But he does seem to be a man of the people. He seems to have good interest at heart. And I'm interested that if one day we were to start getting to Mars, and he is definitely still alive, would he want to go? That's something that I'm interested in. Is would he want to go? But let's go ahead and focus out back onto the stocks. So we had GameStop become a Fortune 500 company. Not only, though, was GameStop affected by this, they also had AMC, huge movie theater business right now, who just underwent a bailout, right? Like, AMC, to me, shouldn't be a struggling business. Because in peak season, when you don't have social distancing and movie theaters don't have to be closed down, it's a very profitable thing. Especially with all that freaking popcorn. We all know how expensive the popcorn is. But definitely movie theaters are one of those businesses that's been struggling with this whole thing. And obviously, it affected them bad enough to where they had to have a buyout type thing like this. So the fact that some hedge funders want to take advantage of a whole pandemic, to me, is very, very stupid. I think it's dumb of them to try and do this, and shame on them for trying to do this. The fact that the internet was able to catch on to it and try and put a stop to that, I'm very happy about it. And if I'm not mistaken, they've also done this with Nokia and BlackBerry, both of those phone companies. They're not major phone companies. Don't know if I'd call them dying per se, but definitely struggling compared to the two major ones, Samsung and Apple. I mean, those two are holding the market very, very strong, not giving up at all. They're not going to give up any leeway on anything with their Galaxies and the Max X's and whatnot. They're trying to be revolutionary, I'll give them that. But when you have people trying to play you on the stock market and take millions of dollars away, it's a little hard, isn't it? But let me get to the badness of this. We started to see how these hedge funders are reacting. They're starting to limit and restrict things because they're like, oh no, we're losing millions and millions and millions and millions and potentially billions of dollars. And with that, you do not want to let this continue to happen. So we've already had the restrictions, right? But on top of that, we also need to think like what's going to happen for the future. Like, is there going to be future detectors on if this happens again? Because kind of what's happening right now is mass market manipulation in my mind. Although it is multiple people doing this it seems like there's a central idea from some central mind. I'm like I said, I'm not on Reddit. I don't know any of these users that are posting anything. I don't know anyone who's giving original leads to any of this. But I imagine there has to be a main voice saying we should attack here, and then the army follows. Okay, there has to be a George Washington. It's just like right now they're wanting to go after Dogecoin. Dogecoin is very, very cheap right now. It's like 4 cents this morning. You can get a lot of Dogecoin for very, very cheap, and they're trying to skyrocket that price up to the moon. If I can pull it up, I'll see what the Dogecoin price is right now. And see what the live chart is of it, and it looks like it didn't actually do too good. It looks like that's a future predictor that I'm looking at. I'm not too sure. Oh, it is the 31st. Okay, well, Dogecoin is kind of back on the rise a little bit, but right now it's short of 3 cents right now. So I don't know what they're going to try and do with Dogecoin, but it'll be interesting to see. The problem with this is the more that this market is tampered with, the more the government is going to have to step in. The stock market has always been a very free thing, and you have your stockbrokers doing the trading for you and whatnot. But we're getting to a point where the White House is even watching the situation. And I don't think they know how to feel about it. I really don't. Because with all this going on right now, this can affect the economy either in a positive way or in a negative way. Because right now, a lot of people are taking that $600 stimulus that they had, and they are now tossing it into stocks and trying to increase the economy to try and make a profit in the long run, which I say that's an interesting way of going about it. It's not the way that I would go about it, but if that's how they want to go about it, go for it. Anyone who invested in Bitcoin way back in the day definitely made a good profit. One single Bitcoin today is worth almost $34,000 now. And just think, if you would have invested into Bitcoin with $600, you would have no financial worries right now. Never would I have thought that Bitcoin would have taken off like it did. I still don't understand how it took off like it did. But it did. And to those who played the game and did good, congrats to you. But I am worried about this fallout, though. I think that there can be a massive fallout from this on new restrictions with trading, new, I don't really want to say FBI wiring, because I know that the FBI listens in on phone conversations. That's how they track down terrorist threats and whatnot. But would they eventually start monitoring communications to try and see if there's going to be market tampering eventually? Would they have inside agents on Reddit to try and stop trading early on? I don't know. I really just don't. I just don't know how much longer to expect this to go, I think, is the one thing on my mind. Because as fun as this is, if I've learned anything about the current generation, is they're all goldfish. They really are, okay? You pay attention to something, and then, like, within a week, you're like, oh, what's that over there? It's very much like a dog and a squirrel thing. It's like a common thing. Like, a dog will get distracted by a squirrel. But you gotta understand that as soon as they look the other way, this will just be a thing of the past, most likely. I don't think that this whole playing the stock market thing is going to be something that sticks around much longer. But is it going to not stick around much longer because A, the government is stepping in, or B, they just stop caring. I don't know. I personally think that the government is going to have to do something. Whether we'll know about it or not, I think that's kind of up in the air. But I think something is going to have to be done, because you can't take a company that's failing and then suddenly throw them into the Fortune 500. That's wrong. Okay? Like, I understand why they did it and how it happened, but that shouldn't generally happen. It's not something that's ever happened before. So the fact that a company goes from super cheap to super expensive like that, just, it feels to me like it should have repercussions. Now, the questions have already been out there. Will anybody be going to jail? On either side, would the hedge funders be going to jail? Absolutely not. Money equals power. Would any of these organizers on Reddit be going to jail? No, they didn't technically break any laws. So that's just it, is they haven't broken any laws. Will they implement new laws to try and prevent this? I say yes. I think that something will be done. The stock market trading will be limited, that something is going to be done that's going to throw more sticks into the cogs of the machine that is the economy, unfortunately. One steel rod into a machine that complex can throw a lot of things into a loop. And not a lot of people think about that. I just don't know if the actions taken by these Reddit groups have been a new cog added to it, or if it is in itself a rod. I know all these hedge funders are definitely cogs in it that are grinding away on other ones and basically taking them down to nothing in the most evil way possible. But at the same time, they're still cogs. And they're very big cogs. And when you take those big cogs out, what happens? Is the machine still able to operate, or does the machine stop to work? Do you need new cogs to come in to replace? These are the questions that I ask myself. A lot of people might think that they have the answers to these type of questions, but the truth is we don't know the future. We can pretend like we do and give our best guesses, like I've done today. But in actual reality, none of us know. None of us will ever know. We could just take the current information that we have on our plate, consume it, process it, learn from it. And with what I'm processing right now, it seems like a lot of people are pissed off. And when you piss off people with money, well, it's not something that's just in the movies, but you kind of see repercussions in real life. So, I'm going to continue to monitor this situation. Have I thrown any money personally into this? Let's answer that question. Have I thrown any money this way? No, absolutely not. The only thing that I would consider potentially throwing money into would be Dogecoin. The only reason is, and here is the only reason I would ever put money into Dogecoin, is it's literally 0.027232 cents. It's literally less than 3 cents for a single Dogecoin. If it was to increase, then you could make some good money. But if it was to go ahead and stay down, okay? If it was to go ahead and just stay as it is or go lower, then you're not going to be out that much. Okay, you just aren't. So I'm just not really concerned about that one. But as soon as I dip my toes in the water, could I be addicted to a new thing of playing stock market? Potentially. I don't know. The only thing that I'm wanting to see... Oh, here we go. Here's how I can change it up. Dogecoin has gone up to... The peak that I'm seeing is 7.7 cents. And it has gone way down. That peaked on the 28th. Okay, so it basically happened at the same time everything else happened. Dogecoin was originally not even worth a cent. And it's just been on the decline ever since. So if you were to throw in $100 that way, you would have made a nice $700 profit. That's the power of the stock market. You could definitely get rich quick, but it's a risky game. You never know what you're going to do with your money. But I think that's pretty much going to do it for this little episode of the 2 Cents Podcast. My 2 cents, in summary, is that if you screw with a hedge fund, which is an evil corporation who is playing on taking money from weak companies that are dying, be prepared for a bite. Because although that dog is just kind of laying there sleeping, just doing its thing, as soon as you try and pet it, it could bite you. And they are petting it full on the head. They are right next to that mouth, and it could bite any instant. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. And maybe you might be throwing some money out there. If you have invested, let me know. How much have you invested? Have you made a profit? That's the things I would like to know, is who's making a profit off of this, or is it failing? I imagine that people are making some good money off of this one. But that is going to do it for this episode of the 2 Cents Podcast, everyone. Thank you for your continued support. Let me know what you think about this. Have a good day. Have a good night. And I will see you guys back here next week.